I did not think a purse could become evidence. Of course, that sounds stupid now, but that night it was just silver chain, lipstick, and one small favor from my husband. I gave it to Elias because I wanted both hands free when the stranger pulled me toward the music. The room saw him holding it before I understood what I had handed away. By midnight, the dance floor held my purse, my marriage, and every witness. My name is Maya Linda. I was 32, and I worked as a senior partnerships manager for a luxury nightlife platform where rooms learned who mattered before guests did. Of course, I called that instinct, not hunger. 2 mirrors, 1 silver purse, and 1 husband waited by the garment rack with flat shoes in his hand. Elias and I had been together 6 years, married 2.5, and for most of that time his quiet care had made my life easier to survive. He remembered things before I admitted I needed them. He knew which heels cut my skin by midnight. He knew the silver chain purse twisted if I wore it across my wrist instead of my shoulder. He knew I forgot to eat before events and became cruel when I was running on coffee and lights. That afternoon, the wardrobe room at Ember House smelled like steam, perfume, and warm metal from the clothing rack. I was checking my earrings in the tall mirror. The room looked back at me like it had already decided I belonged in it. Elias stood near the garment bags with my coat over his arm. He said the black dress looked good. Then he asked softly whether something had changed between us. That was his way. No accusation. No heat. Just a careful question placed between the racks and mirrors, asking me to step closer to a feeling I had spent months walking around. I told him nothing had changed. I said work had been heavy. I said events made me sharp. What he meant was that he missed me before I became the woman other people applauded. What I heard was that he wanted me smaller before the night even began. His thumb moved over the repaired clasp of my purse. He had fixed it 2 years earlier in a tailor shop before my first VIP dinner, when the chain snapped and I nearly cried in the street. Back then, he had knelt on the pavement and repaired it with a borrowed pin while I held my breath. Now I watched his hands and thought how good he was at holding broken things quietly. My phone lit on the vanity. Talia had texted that I should stop dressing like a wife and start dressing like a warning. I smiled before I could hide it. Elias saw the smile. Of course he did. He did not ask who wrote to me. He only folded the flat shoes into a cloth bag and placed them beside my purse, careful as always. The room held its breath for us, and I pretended it was only the air conditioning. Talia's apartment balcony was too narrow for 2 chairs, so we stood sideways with our glasses balanced on the concrete ledge. Below us, traffic moved through wet streets, and the city smelled like rain, fried onions, and someone's expensive cigarette from the floor below. Talia loved views like that. She said they made bad decisions look cinematic. Of course I laughed. I always laughed first with Talia, then decided later whether the joke had teeth. She asked if Elias was still hovering around my events with emergency shoes and moral support. I told her he was not hovering. Then I said he had brought flats to Ember House like I was a child who could not manage her own feet. Talia said he had coat-check husband energy. 1 balcony rail, 2 glasses. No defense from me. The thing is, I did love my husband. That was the part people never understood later. Maybe because I made it difficult to believe. I loved the version of him who waited outside venues with food in a paper bag. I loved the man who read menus before we arrived because I hated choosing under pressure. I loved how he could sit beside me in silence and make the silence feel safe. But safe had started sounding like quiet. Quiet had started sounding like absence. And absence, if you grew up in my mother's kitchen, was never neutral. When I was 13, my mother told me that quiet men did not leave loudly. They just stopped choosing you in public first. She said it while scraping burnt rice from a pot, wearing the blue house robe my father hated. He had not left yet, not in any official way. He still came home for dinner. He still paid bills. He still kissed her cheek when relatives watched. But she had already been watching the room lose him. So when Elias loved me privately, with repaired clasps and planned routes and warm food, Part of me kept waiting for the public proof that never came. Talia said a woman like me needed to know she could still make a room turn. She said Elias was good, but good men sometimes became furniture if no one shook them. Then she touched my wrist and told me the charity after-party that weekend would be full of people who knew how to look. I told her I was married. She said she knew. She also said being married did not mean becoming invisible with better paperwork. That sentence stayed with me because it made a wrong thing sound like oxygen. 3 days later, at dinner with Cassie and Rowan, I made the first real public cut. We were at a restaurant with red lamps and small tables that forced everyone to lean in. Elias had ordered water for me because he knew I had a morning pitch. Cassie said he was sweet. Rowan said Elias made the rest of them look careless. I said Elias was safe in the worst way. It came out light. That mattered. Lightness lets cruelty walk through rooms without taking off its shoes. Cassie laughed, then stopped when she saw Elias lift his glass and not drink. Rowan looked at the table. Talia was not there, but her voice sat beside me anyway. Later, in the car outside our apartment, Elias left the engine running after we parked. The dashboard light made his face look pale and too calm. He said Cassie had texted him asking if everything was okay after dinner. He said she mentioned the safe in the worst way line. He asked what I meant by it. Specific. Factual. One named incident. That was how Elias came to ward pain, with one clean object held out between both hands. I heard him building a case. I told him everyone joked about marriage. I said Cassie was dramatic and Rowan filmed too many things, so he had started seeing scenes everywhere. I said Elias made one sentence feel like a full report. He did not answer at first. His hand stayed on the steering wheel, even though the car was parked. Then he said he knew jokes could protect people, and that one had not protected either of us. That should have slowed me down. Instead, I opened the car door and stepped out before he could make the quiet larger. At home, the silver purse was on the hallway table. I had left it there after Ember House. The chain had twisted again, one thin loop caught in the clasp. Elias noticed it before I did. He picked it up, sat at the kitchen table, and fixed it under the yellow light, while I stood by the fridge pretending to look for something. He asked if I wanted tea. I said no. He made 1 cup for himself and did not ask again. That was the first consequence. Not dramatic, not loud. A second cup not made. The next morning, Cassie replied to my message with only 4 words and no heart. Rowan posted a short clip from dinner but cut the part where I had made the joke. Talia, when I told her, said Cassie had always been allergic to interesting women. I laughed because the room inside me needed someone to keep clapping. By Friday, the silver purse sat repaired on the hallway table, neat and shining, like a thing waiting to be used correctly. The charity after-party at Ember House started clean and became sticky by 11. The ballroom smelled like spilled gin, lime, warm skin, and the flowers Daphne Vale had ordered for the sponsor tables. Ember House knew how to flatter people. Its gold lights softened faces. Its black floors gave everyone a better reflection than they deserved. Rooms like that do not stay neutral. They choose who looks alive. I arrived with Elias. He wore a dark suit, and the expression he used at my events, careful and kind, like he knew he was walking through a place that belonged to me first. My silver purse hung from my wrist. 1 chain, 2 drink tickets. No reason for my hand to be tight. Talia met us near the bar. She kissed my cheek and told me I looked dangerous. Then she looked at Elias and said he cleaned up well, as if he had been brought from storage and polished for the night. Elias smiled politely. I smiled too. Of course I did. Amara, his younger sister, arrived 10 minutes later. She hugged Elias first, then me. Her eyes moved to my purse, then to my face. Amara had never missed small things. That was what made being around her inconvenient. The first hour passed almost well. Elias spoke to Daphne about the venue lighting. Cassie stood with Rowan near the sponsor wall, and Rowan kept filming small clips for the event page. Talia leaned close to me and said the room was boring unless I gave it a reason not to be. Then Nico Alvarez came toward the bar. I did not know him. Not then. He was part of a younger sponsor group, someone's guest, someone's friend, the kind of man who entered a room already sure the lighting would find him. He had dark hair, a loose black shirt, and a smile that waited half a second before arriving. That half second made people feel chosen. He asked if the silver purse was mine or if I was guarding someone else's treasure. I said it was mine. He said it looked like something too delicate to survive a night like that. Elias was standing close enough to hear. I waited for him to say something. He did not. He was speaking to Daphne, or pretending to, with one hand around a glass of water. Nico asked if I danced. I said not usually. Talia touched my elbow. Not hard. Just enough. Nico said that was a waste. He said it where people could hear, and a woman near the bar turned to look at me. That was the thing Elias never understood. A private compliment warms you. A public one changes the room's temperature. The music shifted. More people moved toward the dance floor. I looked at Elias, then at the purse. I told him to hold it for one song. He looked at me, not angry, not confused, just still. I said it was only a purse. I said the chain kept catching on my dress. I said he was already standing there. That last part should not have left my mouth. Elias took it. The silver chain slid from my wrist to his fingers, small and bright. His thumb went to the clasp automatically, checking it the way he always did. I saw Amara look at his hand. I saw Rowan's phone low near his chest. I saw Talia watching me with a smile that had already started to lose its shape. Nico held out his hand. I took it. On the dance floor, his palm settled near my waist, polite enough to deny, clear enough to announce. The music was not slow, not fast, just heavy enough to make bodies lean before minds caught up. Nico said I looked like I had been waiting all night to stop being good. I laughed near his shoulder. Elias stood near the edge of the floor holding my purse. That is the image people kept later. Not Nico. Not the dance. My husband standing under gold light with a silver purse chain wrapped around his fingers, watching me let a stranger hold the place where his hand should have been. Rowan's tagged story went up before the song ended. I did not know that yet. I only knew the room had noticed. A few people looked away too late. Cassie left the bar and went toward the restrooms. Amara stayed still, her face turned toward Elias, not me. Talia reached for her drink and missed the straw the first time. Near the end of the song, I looked back. Elias was fixing the twisted chain on my purse. He was not glaring at Nico. He was not making a scene. He was holding the purse carefully, using both hands now, working the tiny knot out of the chain under the ballroom light. His face was lowered. His mouth had no anger in it, no performance, no claim. Just the old care, still moving through his fingers while I made him look like a man waiting outside his own marriage. For a few seconds, the music went thin around me. The thought opened, plain and sharp. He was still protecting the things I handed him, even now, even here. Nico's hand shifted at my waist. Talia laughed somewhere behind me, too late for the joke. The room came back. I closed the thought. I told myself this was what being alive looked like. Not purse chains. Not quiet men. Not careful hands. This. After the song, Elias handed the purse back. He did not do it roughly. That would have helped me. He placed the chain over my wrist and asked if we could speak in the back corridor. Quiet debrief. No raised voice. The quiet was the point. In the corridor, near stacked chairs and a leaking ice bucket, he asked why I needed him to stand there with my things while another man touched me in front of people we knew. I said he was turning one dance into a humiliation because he felt insecure. He said humiliation was not an accident when I handed him the prop. The word prop made my face warm. I told him not to talk like a theatre critic. I said he could have handed the purse back if he hated it so much. His eyes moved to my wrist, then back to my face. He said I knew he would not embarrass me back. That sentence should have ended the night. Instead, I walked past him toward the music. By the time we left Ember House, Rowan's story had been viewed by half the room. The last frame showed Elias holding the silver purse while I smiled up at Nico. The caption belonged to the event account, not Rowan. It said only that the dance floor was alive. The room had told on me without using my name. The apartment smelled like old coffee and the lemon cleaner Elias used when he could not sleep. I know that smell too well now. Back then, I called it his quiet punishment. Of course, even his cleaning had started to sound like an accusation. He was on the couch when I came out of the bedroom the next morning. He had folded one blanket at the end and placed his phone face down on the coffee table. My mug sat on the counter, not beside the window where he usually put it. One mug, one couch, no speech waiting for me. I told myself he was performing injury. He asked if I had seen Rowan's story. I said everyone had seen it because Rowan posted everything. He said Amara had called him before 7. He said Cassie had sent one message, then deleted it. He said the issue was not the video. The issue was that the video made the pattern visible. Naming the pattern. Not one dance. Not one purse. The accumulation. He said I had been making him useful in public and unwanted in private for months. That sentence should have been too accurate to fight cleanly. So I fought it dirty. I told him he was finally happy because people could pity him. I said he had stood there looking wounded because he knew a sad, quiet man made a louder woman look cruel. His face moved by almost nothing. That was the worst part of Elias. Pain reached him and then became still before I could use it. He said he did not know how to compete with a room. It was the saddest sentence he had ever given me. Not strategic. Not sharp. A man admitting he had been losing to something he could not touch. I heard weakness. I heard him asking me to dim myself because he could not stand beside me in bright places. So I said maybe he should stop trying to compete and start making me feel chosen. He looked down at his hands. The left one still had the faint mark from where my purse chain had wrapped around his fingers. Amara arrived that afternoon without asking. She stood in our hallway with a paper bag of groceries and the kind of calm that made me want to be rude before she earned it. She said she had brought food because Elias had not eaten much. I said he was not a child. She said no, he was my husband. The room changed around that word. Husband. It used to fit our apartment. That day it sounded formal, almost too clean. Amara followed me into the kitchen while Elias stayed near the window. She asked if I knew how he looked in that video. I said people were making too much of one dance. She asked if I knew why it hurt more that he was holding the purse. I said again that he could have handed it back. Amara put the grocery bag on the counter. She did not raise her voice. She said that was exactly why it was cruel. She said I had counted on him not making me look bad, even while I made him look small. The thing is, Amara had been kind to me for years. She had brought soup when I had the flu. She had helped me find the dress for my civil ceremony. She had once told Elias, in front of me, that he was lucky I made his life less grey. So I could not dismiss her like I dismissed strangers. I did it anyway. I told her she was protecting her brother because her family treated quietness like sainthood. Amara's face closed. Not anger. Storage. She put that sentence somewhere she could reach again. After she left, I changed tactics. That was my micro-shift, though I did not have that name for it. I tried a cleaner version of myself. I sat beside Elias on the couch and said I understood the video looked bad. I said Nico meant nothing. I said I only wanted to feel like someone could still see me as more than a wife with a schedule. That was partly true, which made it useful. Elias listened. His hands were folded between his knees. He asked whether I was sorry for dancing with Nico or sorry people had seen what it did to him. There it was again. Too exact. Too hard to soften. I said he always made apologies into exams. He stood then, not fast, not angry. He walked to the hallway table, picked up the silver purse, and placed it on my side of the bedroom closet shelf. He did not say anything about it. He only moved it from the common space into mine. Silent decision marker. I called it tidying. The reader would have understood better than I did. That night, Cassie did not answer my call. Rowan sent me the original video file because I had asked for it, but he wrote only that he was not deleting anything from his archive. Talia replied to my voice note 3 hours later with a message saying the night had gotten intense and that I should let things cool. Talia used to answer before my second sentence ended. By Sunday, Elias had stopped wearing his ring inside the apartment. He did not hide his hand. He did not show it to me either. He made breakfast, washed one pan, and placed the ring in the blue ceramic bowl by the door where we kept spare keys. 1 ring, 2 keys. A room that had stopped pretending it was ours. The second party at Ember House was not planned as a second party in my mind. That was the clean version I carried in. Daphne had invited clients and partners for a closing reception after the charity week, and I told myself attendance was work. Of course, work had always been the best dress for the things I wanted to do anyway. I chose the same silver purse on purpose. I stood in front of the bedroom mirror while Elias watched from the doorway. The purse chain lay against my wrist, repaired, bright, obedient. He looked at it, then at me. He said nothing. That silence should have frightened me more than shouting. Shouting gives you weather. Silence gives you paperwork without naming it. We took separate rides. I said it was easier because I had to arrive early. Elias did not challenge that. He only asked what time the reception ended. I told him I did not know. The room at Ember House felt smaller the second time, maybe because I had already used too much of it. The flowers were lower, the lights were softer. The floor still held the smell of old gin and polish. Talia stood at the bar with a black dress and a face that was slower than usual. Cassie was not there. Rowan stayed near the media table and did not come over. Amara arrived with Elias, not after him. That hurt more than I wanted to admit, so I made it into proof that his family had formed a committee. Nico appeared half an hour in, wearing the same easy smile and a different shirt. He kissed my cheek near the air, not close enough for anyone to accuse. Agenda B was already showing, though I did not read it. He was warm to the room, careful with me, generous with attention only while it cost him nothing. He said he hoped last week had not caused trouble. I told him Elias was dramatic when he wanted sympathy. Nico smiled, then looked over my shoulder to check who had heard. That should have told me something. Elias came to me near the coat check corner. The same place, almost the same light. He said he would leave with me right then if I wanted. He said we could go somewhere without witnesses and speak plainly before the room finished deciding who I was. Final and clean. One real offer. No repeated begging. For 1 second I saw the shape of the door. Not the near clarity from the first party, not as sharp. This was simpler. He was still offering me a private way out. I hated that he could make leaving sound like mercy. I told him witnesses were the only reason he cared. I said if nobody had seen the video, he would still be ignoring me with clean counters and practical favors. I said he loved me like a responsibility but rarely made me feel chosen in public. That was true. He did not deny it. He looked at me with the tired face of a man who could not argue with the one correct thing inside a pile of damage. He said I was right that he had hidden too much feeling inside usefulness. He said that did not make what I had done small. The sentence gave me no clean place to stand, so I stepped toward the music instead. Nico was near the dance floor laughing with 2 men from the sponsor group. I could feel Elias behind me. Amara was beside the bar. Rowan's camera was lower this time, but not off. Talia watched from farther away than I expected. The voluntary line was not the first dance. That could have been explained. It was what I did after knowing exactly what the first one had done. I turned, lifted the purse from my wrist, and handed it to Elias again. Slowly. Not because the chain caught. Not because I needed both hands, because I wanted the room to see that I was not afraid of his quiet. I told him to hold it for a minute. No one laughed. Even Nico stopped smiling for half a beat. Elias did not take it at first. His eyes moved from the purse to my face, and then to the people watching. I saw Amara shift forward. I saw Talia look down into her glass. I saw Daphne, near the guest list stand, become still in that professional way event people do when a private scene becomes a venue problem. Then Elias took the purse. Only this time, he did not hold it by the chain. He held it by the body, flat in his palm, like an item being logged before return. He said he would handle the rest properly. No legal words, no threat, nothing I could repeat later without sounding foolish. I told him he always made himself noble when he was losing. He looked at me once, then walked away with the purse. Not toward the coat check, not toward the bar, toward the side office hallway. That should have stopped me. Instead, I took Nico's hand. The dance was shorter than the first one. Nico held distance now, just enough that I could feel him protecting himself. He asked if Elias was angry. I said Elias called it hurt, because anger would require heat. Nico laughed, but the laugh did not stay. He looked toward the hallway twice. When the song ended, Elias was gone from the edge of the room. I went to the bar and reached for Talia. She had been the first person I wanted when I needed the room to stay mine. I sent her 3 messages from 10 feet away because walking over would have meant asking with my face. She answered only with 1 grey heart. The absence was smaller than a sentence and larger than the room. After that, people became logistical. Daphne asked if I needed water in a voice that did not invite drama. Rowan packed 1 camera into its case but left another on the table. Amara stood near the hallway, arms folded, watching the door Elias had used. Nico said he had to say hello to someone near the sponsors. Everyone found a task except me. I kept talking. I told Daphne the reception was going well. I told Nico the music had improved. I told Amara her brother was making a scene by leaving. Amara said nothing. That was when the silence became louder than any speech. The legal envelope arrived on the dance floor just after midnight, when the music had been lowered and the staff had started stacking glassware near the bar. Ember House looked tired without the full lights. The gold had thinned. The black floor showed shoe marks. My silver purse sat on Daphne's small side table beside a folded receipt and a bowl of coat check tokens. Elias came back with Amara and a process server in a grey coat. I did not know the man. I knew the envelope before I understood why. He asked for Maya Linda. I said that was me. My voice sounded normal enough that I disliked it. He handed me the envelope and asked me to confirm my name. I signed where he pointed. The pen was cheap and left a small gap in the middle of the M. I looked at the envelope, then at Elias, then at the purse on the table. The document was titled Petition for Dissolution of Marriage with Temporary Financial Orders. The first hearing for temporary orders was listed 3 weeks later, on a Thursday morning at 9:30. Amara looked at the floor when I read the title, not to hide pity, to keep herself still. The petition named dates: the first Ember House party, Rowan's tagged story, the second reception, witness statements from Amara and Rowan. No miracle evidence, nothing stolen. Only the things I had done in rooms where I thought rooms belonged to me. I told Daphne that Elias had planned to humiliate me in front of everyone. She looked at the purse, then at me. She said the staff had seen who handed it to whom. Neutral. Clean. A sentence with no place for me to push. Nico stood near the sponsor table with his coat already over his arm. He said he thought Elias and I were basically separated. Then he left with 2 men from his group before I could correct him. Afterward, Elias moved into Amara's guest room and stopped entering the apartment unless the time was written first. The joint account became restricted under temporary financial orders, and my cards began declining in places where people knew my name. Cassie stopped answering, Rowan refused to delete the original file, and Amara blocked my number after 1 final message about logistics. Nico removed himself from every tagged photo and told people he barely knew me. At work, Daphne's team stopped requesting me directly for Ember House events. The thing is, I thought having both hands free meant I could choose whatever wanted me loudest. Of course, that was the room talking through me again. Elias had been carrying the careful parts for so long that I mistook his hands for weakness. The night I handed him my purse, I thought I was giving him something small. The silver purse stayed on the bedroom closet shelf, chain repaired, empty inside. I got both hands free and there was nothing left to hold.